It is Tuesday here on the Bleav and Panthers on the Bleav Podcast Network. Desmond Johnson, Jonathan Stewart in the house. We're going to dissect the Panthers' 40-7 loss to the Washington Commanders on Sunday. Panthers Broncos this upcoming Sunday. It's a 4:25 kickoff on CBS. We'll go around the league. There's a lot of stuff going on. We'll talk about Deshaun Watson's injury. Tell them why you're mad. It's open mailbag. Vent out your frustrations. Vent out your whatever you may be feeling towards the Carolina Panthers at this point. We'll get through all that and more here in just a bit. It's Bleav in Carolina Panthers. Let's go.
Jonathan Stewart gets in, fights for more yardage. Stewart to the mouth of the goal line. Touchdown!
Wow, that's just pure Stewart right there.
That's a big-time run by Jonathan Stewart.
Welcome to Bleav in Carolina Panthers here on Bleav Podcast Networks. Do you believe? Rate and subscribe the show on all major podcast platforms and subscribe to our social media channels on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Video available weekly at youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio.
Do you believe?
And it is the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast here on Bleav Podcast Network's Desmond Johnson, joined by the Panthers' all-time leading rusher, Jonathan Stewart. Schuyler Callihan, it is, if you don't know, he's a beat writer for Sports Illustrated for Carolina Panthers, but he also is for the Charlotte Hornets and is the opening day for the NBA. So he may or may not scoot through while we're on today. It's open mailbag, of course, if you're seeing us on our YouTube channel, if you're seeing us on Facebook, if you're seeing us on X at Bleav in Panthers, you can actually comment on the show live while we're here on the air. We can respond to your questions and comments there. If you see us on Twitter or X and you see the Bleav in Panthers feed, go ahead and share it out so we can get even more of an audience in here to vent about these Carolina Panthers, who are now 1-6 after a 40-7 loss to the Washington Commanders. Me and Stu will give our opinions on what we saw and maybe what we didn't see, and kind of go from there. We got some audio from head coach Dave Canales, courtesy of David Newton from ESPN, and much, much, much more. Before we get into all that, of course, let's talk about one of our main sponsors in Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source of everything sports betting. Every stat, matchup breakdown, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during games, with the largest catalog of odds and on everything from football, Major League Baseball playoffs, NHL, NBA to political props. When the game is over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. That is Bet Online. The game starts here. And where we will start is Stu's reaction to the 40-7 loss, Panthers Commanders. What do you do with this here? Because they're. I'm just gonna let you go. Just go. What your thoughts here as we motor through this this another late start, another game?
Yeah, man, it's frustration. It's frustrating. I can't even speak. You know, I think as a former player, I try to put myself in the shoes of a guy in that locker room right now, and it's frustrating from all angles because there's a lot of things that you can say and point to as far as, you know, we're kind of up a creek without a paddle, you know?
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
So injuries, you know, a year of new coaching staff, injuries, and playing teams that are really good, you know, and showing, you know, what a turnaround looks like for an organization. I mean, I look at the Washington Commanders, you know, they were the most toxic organization in the league for some time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you know, they went in and they penetrated, the top of the organization and made some changes all the way throughout the whole entire team, front office. And now you have, you know, a quality football team that's being led by a quality individual. Dan Quinn, you hear nothing but good things about this man. And obviously he's been around the league for some time, but you know, the culture changes happen when you win games. Because that's when you really truly get buy-in. We experienced a little bit of that this year when we won against the Raiders. We were not struggling in our depth. We weren't struggling with injuries at that point in time as badly. We were without Derek Brown out the gate, but
Yeah.
we were still hopeful because we had our guys, or at least, some starters that presented some promise. And so I go back to being a player in the locker room, and I'm just frustrated because that you have a good coaching staff. I believe in David Canales, and just kind of how he carries himself and how he, projects himself to the folks around him. He's a leader. He's a good man that knows how to meet people and the situations that they're in and make things personable. Again, the word frustration. I'm frustrated for the players in that locker room and for the coaching staff because they're just up a creek without a paddle.
It was funny. I was actually thinking about you on Sunday because especially as we got to the second half of that game, this team, the past 2 or 3 weeks in particular, through no fault of its own, is starting to remind me of the 2010 team that you were a part of that finished 2-14. And that team, I felt like a large part of it was injury. Like there was so many injuries on that roster that year.
Yeah.
And it gutted the roster. And I'm sitting there watching the second half, and I pride myself on kind of knowing, who's out there, who's playing, like for the Panthers. Like I know who's the safety, who's the cornerback, that kind of thing. And there was a stretch, man, in the second half where like there's like players passing the camera or whatever, and you see in the back of their jersey, I'm like, who is that? Like I have no idea who's out there playing defense for us right now at multiple spots. And that was scary, like where I couldn't even figure out. I was trying to watch Trevin Wallace. So I was like, okay, I know he's out there. Let me at least watch him and see what he's doing. And other than that, and I think Xavier Woods, JC Horn, everybody else are just like kind of guys that just got here this year or plug and play guys because somebody got hurt or 2 guys got hurt ahead of them and they need somebody to play outside linebacker. So he's saying, come on back in here, that kind of thing. And I was thinking about that year where it did kind of feel like after a few years of them kind of treading water, it just bottomed out in 2010. And it wasn't really through the fault of the coaching staff or anything like that. It just so many injuries. Like it's amazing how many injuries that they have right now, season-ending injuries to a lot of players that are like key components when we talked about coming into this year. Having said that, shout out to the Commanders, man. That was the first time I really saw them all year. And I ain't gonna lie, I was a little nervous that the first couple of plays with Jalen Daniels, that first run he took off on, he just looked a lot faster than everybody else out there. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be a long day. And then when he went out, there was a glimmer of hope. I'm like, oh well, Marcus Mariota, maybe, I don't know. Let's see. It's the backup quarterback. And of course, the backup quarterback's the most popular guy on the team when he needs to come in. And he came in and took him a little bit to lather up, but he started throwing some darts and it was just rolling downhill at that point. So,
well, what they did was they took the pressure off of him when he came in the game and they just ran the ball. They went on a tear there for a little bit of just, committing to the run. I mean, they finished the game with 37 carries. Obviously, they're going to finish the game with a lot of carries and yards because they ended up winning the game 40-7, right? So at some point, third quarter, you're up 37-0. You're trying to get out of there healthy. So you're going to run the ball and make sure no one gets hurt. They have a good roster. They've done a good job of just like making sure they keep the pieces around that they know that are going to be suitable for winning games in the future. Because they've done a bit of cleaning house a little bit over the past several years, going through their cycle of changes. I mean, I'm starting to look more at teams that we play and where they once were, and trying to figure out, man, what are they doing right, and how do you position yourself as a team, as an organization, to be where a team like the Washington Commanders are. They're 5-2, 3-0 in the division, or 3-0 at home. I mean, like they understand the dynamics of culture, and it happened almost overnight. It feels like,
But it really didn't though. Like this took some time for them to kind of compile the
Yeah.
talent and get the right coach in there and get the right quarterback in there. And we've seen it here in Carolina. I mean, you were part of it. Like the whole Rivera, Cam Newton era. Like it was a series of events that turned the team around and basically pushed them forward for the next 6-7 years. And that's what we're kind of watching with Washington right now. It's pretty refreshing to see it actually. I think it does.
And I think if you're a Carolina Panther fan, you can look at this game and be pissed off. Absolutely. Because you're a fan and you're paying money to support a team and have plans throughout a year that's based on your favorite football team.
Yeah.
So you absolutely are going to be pissed off. But I will say this as encouragement, look at a team like Washington. You know, and to your point, Desmond, you know, the teams that I've been on where it wasn't so good, those were the years that the Carolina Panthers were really developing their culture.
That's what I was going to ask.
They were developing their grind.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, we're such a microwave, you know, society. We want the short version every time. But the short version doesn't last long anyway, right? You get spurts and then you just get upset at the end of the day because it doesn't meet your expectation. I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, you know, and just what Mike Tomlin has been able to do there, the consistency of winning. I would never give that up if I'm an organization. If I'm an owner, head coach, like or a council member that's making big decisions over there in Steeler Nation.
Yeah,
I'm giving him the bag every year to stay because he has a formula that works. Which
they're 5-2. Like they're doing a quarterback. They're playing with their quarterbacks at 5-2, like trying to figure this out. Who's going to be the starter for the second half?
I really love
this.
I saw this interview and they're talking about Russell Wilson, and they were, you know, trying to pump up Russell Wilson and, you know, create this question so that there can be an answer of like heroic, you know, comeback and whatnot. And they were talking about, you know, Russell Wilson scoring, you know, a rushing touchdown. How does that make you feel, you know, having a quarterback to overcome adversity and da-da-da-da. Mike Tomlin sat up there and said, it was just a quarterback sneak.
I love Mike Tomlin.
And a lot of people look at that and just kind of braze over it. But as a player, I'm looking at that as, no, he's right. It was just a quarterback sneak. Like, let's not over glorify things.
He just tells it like it is.
Let's not over exaggerate things either. Let's not over communicate. Let's not. I mean, you over communicate on defense when you're playing ball, but let's not overstimulate the idea of something only to just basically be stuck in patting yourself on the back.
Yeah,
you got to get yourself going, right? You don't need to be sitting here pumping guys up in the head until the job's finished. And I remember Kobe Bryant's interview. Like, you know, people so quickly want to like glorify the good things that happen and sit on those things. You got to have the mentality of, no, man, the job's not done, right? You play the Raiders, great win. And we were all so hyped because we've been in a loser's mentality this whole time.
A long time.
It's like, oh man, we won a game. Yeah, celebrate. No, the job's not finished.
Yep.
Never going to be finished.
And I think a lot of people are looking back on it, and I've seen like in the comments. And again, it's open mailbag today, so you guys can come in and ask us questions throughout the entire show. We're pretty much with you guys, the fans today. And if you're watching this on X, make sure you share, retweet it, like. All that good stuff. It's on Instagram right now. We have a Bleav in Panthers Instagram account. You can follow us there at Bleav in Panthers. And you can follow us on, it's Bleav in Carolina Panthers on Instagram, and it's Bleav in Panthers on X. There's some of the stuff in here, like from Brad Thomas, who asked, Stu, do you think Bryce is done in Carolina based on how Dave Canales has phrased his answers when asked about him? And that's a good segue because I wanted to bring up this footage from David Newton's X page from yesterday's press conference, where people have been asking. Andy didn't have a good game. He might as well just handed the ball off to Dante Fowler that pass in the first quarter. He had 2 interceptions that were just bad interceptions, and the questions started coming out about Bryce Young. When can he get back in? Should he get back in? Coach Canales was asked this question during the press conference, and this was his response, courtesy of David Newton.
Just in terms of how the progression of what we've been doing offensively, I think that, if you look at the collection of the games he's played, there's been some really good situational passing that have come out of it. We've had some explosive plays come out of it. The offenses ran smoothly for the most part, and I'd love for us as a group, Andy included, to find a way to finish, and yesterday we didn't have a finish out. The game got out of hand so quickly. But the week before, I think that's where we were headed. But now again, we have to address just fundamental execution, breaking the format, breaking the huddle, lining up properly, and finishing those plays.
Thoughts on Canales there, and Brad's comments here about, do you think Bryce is actually done in Carolina? Because I am starting to catch a vibe that Coach Canales isn't really concerned about Bryce getting back into the game this season. It feels like when he talks, it feels like he's moved on from Bryce Young, kind of like the way he talks about him. It's like he pushes down which is the way he's supposed to. He's pushing down any questions about Bryce. Is he getting back in? What are the plans for the future? There was another question in there where he basically deferred it to Dan Morgan and Brant Tillis, the guys that are in the front office. That's a front office question. I don't know. He could have answered it a different way, but he didn't. He kind of pushed it that way, which makes me feel like they've had these conversations already. He just don't want to show his hand, and you can't really say, yeah, Bryce is up for trade or whatever, or we're not using Bryce anymore. That just diminishes his value, whatever you do with him to begin with. I think for me, I was looking at like, well, you can't trade him right now because of everything he gave up. But to be honest, I don't know if that really matters anymore. Like, if it's something where you feel like you have to do a complete reset and you have to do it without Bryce Young on the roster, fine, so be it. Take whatever you can get, because at this point, you're not going to get back what you gave up to get him. Like, it's just not going to happen. So if that's what you're really feeling and you're really doing a complete and total reset on this, fine. But if that's not how you're feeling and Bryce is part of the future plans, we probably deserve the right to know, in terms of what are the plans for Bryce Young, because they really haven't tipped their hand to what they're planning to do with him. And even Bryce, when he's asked, he's kind of close to the vest. Like, he was asked, do you want to start again in Carolina? He's like, that's out of my control, that kind of thing. They're all saying the right things, but I think the Panther crowd is starting to get restless because we're kind of like, all right, well, if he is going to be the future, maybe we do need to see him some more. I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't need to see Bryce anymore. I saw enough. Like, I have no reason to believe that it's going to be any different from what we saw the first 18 starts he had, because he sat for 4 games or whatever. Like, let Andy keep playing. I don't really have a problem with do you have a problem with the offense? Like, I don't really have a problem with the offense so much that they're not scoring as much as they need to, but the actual just moving the ball, the concepts, the schemes that they're doing. I watch each game and I'm like, I'm okay with what they're doing on offense. They need to do more of it, but
when I listened to that interview of Dave, speaking about, what they're trying to achieve, I hear a coach that is basically trying to evaluate guys finishing plays, right?
Yeah.
We can talk all day about, the coach. Well, players got to make sure they execute. And the problem is what we started this conversation off with is depth and guys that aren't necessarily, the built-in starters, right? You have Yash coming in for Taylor Moton this week. That's a different, player, like from, top to bottom, right? Taylor Moton has basically provided a case of why he's very valuable.
Yep.
So, but Yash doesn't mean that he's a bad player. It just means this is his first time getting out there and starting for the Carolina Panthers. So that takes time to really evaluate a guy and what he can actually bring to the table. I look at this as we have to figure out a way to approach every game as fans to not microwave this, to have this instant gratification mindset. Bryce Young, to be a starter or not, to be the future or not. Let's say Bryce Young was a 10-year guy in the league, right? Not a rookie. The question wouldn't be, oh, well, are we going to see Bryce Young? You know what I'm saying? Everyone's so stuck on, hey, like let's move on from this season and see how we're going to pan out next year. Well, I mean, it's week 8 going into week 8, right?
Yeah, or 7.
So
we're getting
still
to
in the
half
season.
point. Yeah.
So everyone needs to just really adjust their expectations as far as what a football season is going to be like. If everybody feels like they're a GM and has all the answers, well, go through the season and evaluate every single player, every single game from every single team in the NFL, and know every single person that's sitting on the couch, and create yourself, a free agent board and a draft board, and provide options to us.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
please.
Because that's what the Carolina Panthers are doing.
Come help us, please. Yeah.
That's what the organization's doing. And it's not as easy as 1, 2, 3. There's the idea of the structure of cap space and all kind of stuff that goes into these conversations. And and also too, figuring out whether or not certain guys can actually develop into something. It's going to take time.
That's where we are, really. And I said this last week. It's kind of, I don't want to say that they're flushing the season or anything like that, because I do see they're still playing. They're still trying to win football games. They haven't given up or anything like that. They're not tanking or anything to that effect that fans like to use that phrase. They're not doing that. They're really out there playing. They're just outmanned. Like, they're literally outmanned. I don't think that they feel they're outmanned when they're out there playing, because as a player, I don't think you ever go out there and think, oh man, we ain't got enough here to to make this happen. Or maybe you do and you just don't say it out loud. But I don't think that that's the mentality they're carrying. But as a fan watching it from afar, that Commanders game started slipping away pretty quick. And I was like, once it started getting past a certain point, I'm like, we don't have enough bullets to actually try to come back on this. Even if the offense can get down the field and score a touchdown, I have zero faith that the defense can stop them, because there's nothing on defense that makes me feel good about anything right now.
I did see promise earlier in the game, right? They were able to get a stop there in the red zone and hold them to 3 points.
Right.
Our defense.
After interception,
so there was definitely a lot of areas out there that is worth, putting in the bank. I think the Carolina Panthers have to figure out their formula of winning football games. Coach Wilkes, that game, who was that against, where we just ran the ball the entire game?
Detroit.
Detroit.
Yeah, it was cold.
Right?
Yeah,
cold game.
Here. Yeah.
And they were like, hey, we're going to do what we do best, which is run the ball. I don't care how it looks. I don't care what people got to say about it. I mean, Belichick did that one year. They had a couple games where they just threw the ball 3 times or something like that.
Yeah, ran it like 50 sometimes or whatever. Like, I love that.
And what you're doing is you're saying, okay, we're a little weak on defense, so let's play defense with offense to the best of our ability. We know we got to score points. I know we're down 10. Let's just hold our water, and let's not abandon the run so much. Let's actually oversimplify this and just run the ball. Third and 3, 3rd and 5. Run it. You might pop it.
Yeah. That's the part I can't figure out when I'm watching these games. That why isn't Chuba getting the ball more? Because he seems like he's the dude that they need to be making the focus of the offense, just to help Andy out. Like, don't put so much as on Andy's shoulders. You got a dude getting 5 yards carry.
I do love the fact that we were able to find Jatavian Sanders a little bit. He had 6 catches for 60-some yards. Getting him involved is actually an opportunity for them to open up their playbook, because now if teams have to say to themselves, okay, now we have to cover this guy. That opens up the playbook to, getting, certain guys in spaces to create, explosive plays. You control the middle of the field. If you get Jatavian, active in the seams and that territory there, and with a team that's playing, cover 3, because they're basically just saying, hey, we're going to load up the box. You need to figure it out. Find those pockets with your tight end. And it doesn't help that we just missed a lot of assignments. I think going back to that, interview that we just listened to, guys aren't finishing plays. Guys aren't finishing blocks. So you can't necessarily, expect to win games if you're not doing the fundamental things the right way.
It takes time to install a culture. And we just mentioned another team that just went to, we were talking about the Commanders to start this off. How about Detroit? like what Detroit's doing, like where Detroit was 3 years ago until they brought in Lanning, and now you've seen over a period of 2-3 years them build to where they are now, where they're a contender. Like, and I think a lot of our fan base feels like that should be us. That should be us. Well, we got to earn that. Like, we have to build that first. And I hate to say it, but not just the previous regime, but the previous like 2 regimes. And you got to go back. One of the previous episodes we just did a couple weeks ago, Schuyler did one in there. Maybe I should go clip it back out, where he talked about the draft picks that we'd given up, like to basically chasing quarterbacks. And it's all these 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round picks that we just kind of threw out into the wind, chasing after a quarterback like a quick fix. And for Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, and using stuff to go up to get Bryce, we don't have depth because we didn't have those picks. We didn't have 2nd, 3rd, 4th round picks for like 2-3 years. And then when we did have them, we didn't hit on what we picked. And
you make a great point, man.
You know,
8 quarterbacks or so in the last 7 years. I think maybe 7 or 8 coaches in the last 7 years. So there's just a lot of things that you have to work through. You have to basically clean the kitchen.
Yeah.
And the kitchen's been dirty for a long time. Mold's growing, and you got to make sure it don't grow back.
The nighttime
can't just clean it. You got to make sure it bleach it.
Yeah. The nighttime crew did not clean up when they left last night. They just basically threw their hands up.
Or they did, but they just did their best. It's just a very messy kitchen.
They just got everything wet and just left. Yeah. They're like, you know, let the next guys do it in the morning. I wanted to there's a little bit deeper. There's people all in the mailbag here today, and I wanted to express their comments. Mark Burke said, hey, shout out to y'all at Bleav. I know it's got to be tough to find a way to keep the Panthers interesting right now. Y'all's insight really does help the average fan understand the real depth. And again, we do kind of pride ourselves. We're probably one of the more positive Panther podcasts you're going to come across, because we're not going to sit here for an hour and just dump on the Panthers. That doesn't really do anybody any good. We wait a day or two after the game so everybody's emotionally kind of come back down from wherever they are, so we can rationally talk about what we just watched.
And please believe we still keep receipts.
Yeah, we still keep. I mean, our day will come. Our day will come. Like, I don't know, like Scottie Pippen said when they were asking me about his money, my day will come. It's going to come. We don't know when, but hey, this is season 4, so hey, we'll find out when it happens. Brandon B2 Squared says, Stu, thinking as a fan, what do you look forward to for the rest of the season? I'm a PSL owner and still love going to games, but it's tough sitting around always away fans with a team that is struggling. I can feel that. We are struggling. Charlotte is an implant city. There's a lot of people that moved to Charlotte for business, or they moved from up north, and they didn't grow with allegiance to Carolina. So you run across a lot of Steeler fans and
Dallas Cowboy fans, Buffalo fans.
Yeah, dude, the Steeler fans will be walking around Charlotte with terrible towels, waving them as they're walking around uptown, and the Steelers won't even be in town. We'll be playing somebody else. So it's like what is going on? Like, why?
Just being petty.
Yeah, there's like Pittsburgh. They're just screaming it, walking around uptown. Like, come on, man. Like, that kind of stuff I understand when the Panthers are in a down spot, because we've seen it a few times when we dip. But I will say this. I don't know of any place that's better than Charlotte when the Panthers are rolling, or this region. Like, when the Panthers are doing Panther stuff, everybody's energized by it. Like, it's a different vibe altogether. And I think that's what we miss, because we haven't really felt it since 2017. I think it was the last time we made the playoffs. So it's been a hot minute, like 6 years. 7 years. Yeah, so I mean, and I think everybody misses it. They long for it. We've had all these false starts, like with coaches and quarterbacks and stuff, and people want to dump on David Tepper because he's been the kind of common denominator. I don't really think that this is his thing. His problem is Tepper. He's still in the business. You can tell by their expression. I don't really think he is. I really think
everyone needs to move on from the narrative of it's too. Everyone chooses the easy route of attack sometimes, right?
That's it. Yep.
It's like, oh, who's the biggest bullseye? Oh, maybe the guy that owns the team.
the $20 million. Yeah,
like, come on, you guys got to get a little bit more creative now. that ship has sailed.
He's not. He's not the reason why Andy Dalton threw that interception in the first quarter. He's not the reason why they scored 40 points. Like,
you have to basically look at this from a standpoint of actually holding the players accountable, and not to their fault sometimes even. Right? You got a guy out there that's holding the lunch pail, waiting for a bus come by, and then he watches, a guy with a Corvette speed past him, and he's got Chick-fil-A in the front seat. So like, there's a difference as far as, the competition that you're up against when you have guys that are hurt. You have guys that are on the bench that you were expecting to be playing. How we saw them play against the Raiders, that was high caliber football.
That felt like adrenaline now, looking back on it, that they were so geeked from the quarterback change. Because it spilled. We see it on the defense too, where they were playing kind of like their pants were on fire. And then over time, it's just kind of they drifted back
over
to
time,
earth.
you got way more. You got hurt. You lost
yeah, way more people got hurt over the past
Josie,
4 weeks since then.
You lost Josie. You lost what's the name?
We lost
Moten.
Lost Corbett.
Corbett. You lost a lot of folks.
Yeah, I mean it's. We still haven't seen Adam Thielen since what, week 1, week 2?
Yeah, see Adam Thielen.
So he's on the roster.
We have to like just reel it back and just be real with ourselves. Let's not be lazy with our frustrations. If you want to be frustrated and vocalize it, absolutely go for it. But let's just be a little bit more creative.
Yeah, because we've done all the other stuff already multiple times. Like we don't need to hit the same beats over and over again. It's not David Tepper. He's not out there like a Marvel supervillain looking over his team from a balcony. Like,
stop watching the
everybody's lives. Yeah, like he ain't doing that. He wants to win too. That's the whole point.
Right. And he's like, that's the thing too. He's been a winner all his life.
Yeah. So for him, imagine him having to go through this. Like, I can't figure this out. Like usually I can just throw money at it and it just works, and it doesn't work this way. So he's doing it on the fly too. And like he said in that press conference at the beginning of bringing in Dave Canales and Dan Morgan, he didn't even say anything. Actually, he said it off to on the mic to Joe Person. He was just like, "No, I'm out the way now. I'm in the shadows." He's been in the shadows. Like I haven't really seen him at all. Other than even when he pops up at practice, people are like, "Oh, David Tepper's at practice." Why the hell wouldn't he be? He owns the team.
Yeah, he owns the team.
Yeah, go on. Let him show up, man. Let him see his people.
Let him wear he's in his house. That's
like he's got to hide. He's got to hide from Carolina because he's the owner. He's not supposed to be around the team. It's just weird. Dalton Thaddeus says, I hear people say blow it up. We are already blown up. We can't keep doing that every season. We have to dig ourselves out. I thought that too. Sunday, someone was like, I think Joe actually tweeted, just blow the whole thing up. And every comment underneath it was like, blow up what, Joe? Like, there's nothing left to blow up. Like, we're here. Like, we're already here. Like, we've done this already. There's nobody to I don't want to trade away Chuba. I don't want to trade away Deontay Johnson. I don't want to trade away anybody, really. There's nobody I really want to trade away that's going to help us right now. We are at where we are at, and we just need to deal with it. And hopefully we can get some progress and grow as a team, and hopefully maybe make some. I still want competitive football.
Yeah,
competitive football Sunday. Like,
going back to Mark's question, Mark's question about the average fan and what to look forward to and how to watch games.
Mm-hmm.
Look forward to your favorite player on the roster. That's how I do it.
That's how I was doing. I was following Wallace on defense on Sunday after a certain point.
Trevor Wallace is balling on defense. Let me watch him every single play.
Yep.
Because I can guarantee you'll be excited if you watch. You'll be excited about the future if you look at the players that you admire and watch how they're playing, and then start pumping that into the environment. Right. Chuba Hubbard. I'm watching him every time he gets the ball. Even when he's not getting the ball, I'm watching him. What is he doing on the pass play? Is he going to block? Is he going to block downfield? What's his energy like? I just find the positives and just focus on the positives at the end of the day.
Yeah.
There's not a lot sometimes, like this past game. I understand, but that's how you're going to get through this season. And hopefully some guys get healed up and then get back. I mean, Jonathan Brooks, at some point this season we'll be able to get a chance to see what he is like in a Panther uniform, which is going to be exciting. To see, young, fresh talent at the running back position and see how explosive he can be in the running game, in the passing game. Maybe they put him on special teams. Who knows, right? So there's a lot of things that I think when it's all said and done, players like Coker, players like Sanders, Jatavian Sanders, like the young guys. I'm excited to see those guys just continue to get better and excel. And seeing guys like Icky, right, playing pretty good.
He's been, we haven't really mentioned him hardly at all. Like
that offensive line, just them gelling and just continue to gel. And looking forward to them staying healthy, right? Because the healthier they are, the more reps they get together, the better they're going to be. And
True.
we talk about the trenches. You got to win in the trenches. I look at University of Oregon. We're switching to college right quick, but we haven't been a contender because we haven't had winners in the trenches. We've been playing, SEC schools, Big Ten schools, and getting mollywopped because we can't move guys, nor can we get to the quarterback. So on the offensive side of the ball, we win him in the trenches. This past game, there's obviously some communication errors. Taylor Moton's out, so Yash is in there for the first time. So you're going to have some type of issue at some point in the game. Letting guys, run free on those types of things are communication errors, right? Not knowing where to be, not knowing what to do. And usually you see those things when you have a guy that hasn't been on the field often. So I see it from a different viewpoint always, because I'm always going to give it to you from a locker room standpoint.
Right.
I'm not really trying to sugarcoat it. It sucks, right? It sucks losing games.
We've been here before. Like we've known this feeling. So like I think that's the thing too, where people are like, oh, I got to put this coat on again. I thought we were close.
But I really love the fact that in the fourth quarter we scored. Right? Those guys could have laid down. They could have laid down, but they continued to score and just at least end on some type of high note to the best of their ability. And it was by running the ball. Just run the ball.
Run the ball. And it's the NFL. Like I know it feels bad right now, but this is also a league where we can go to our bye week, come out of it, and beat the Chiefs. I know it sounds weird. It sounds crazy, but
be the team to just shock the world. That's what I would do.
And why not? Why not? And we're going to be here like each week we go through this, because again, this is a situation where they're going to have to continue to stack draft picks, great free agent signings. Guys are going to want to play for Dave Canales after a certain point once results are shown out there, because we saw it happen with Ron Rivera the last 3 or 4 years he was here, where you started getting vets like Peanut Tillman and others wanting to come here to actually play. Jared Allen, like they want to come here and play those last couple of years and have a chance to compete with a contender. You got to build it first. You got to build the foundation before you can actually build the roof. And I think everybody wants us to build a roof and build down, and you can't build that way.
And you can't build like that.
Can't build that way. And I know everybody wants a quick solution and a quick fix, but it's just not out there. Actually, here's an interesting question from Matson Adams. What do you think about the switch from 4-3 to a 3-4? Seems like we have to change the roster to change the defense. All those old picks that fit a 4-3 don't fit a 3-4. Too many changes. I actually kind of agree. I feel like anytime we've switched to a 3-4, we always go back to a 4-3 eventually. Like our personnel is just kind of set for it. I know we were trying to squeeze certain players into certain things so it would work. Some players like Jadeveon Clowney just haven't had a chance to really play in the past couple of weeks. You haven't had Josie Jewell. You haven't had Shaq Thompson. So it's like, what are you're not really sure what you're getting. You've got a rookie at middle linebacker. So that was something I noticed too, where when I was watching
undrafted guys that are playing right now. So
yeah, you drafted guys for this, so let them play. But it struck me as how lucky we were as a franchise to have had Luke Kuechly play for us. Because I was watching Wallace. No knock on Wallace at all. This is more of a shout out to Luke. Because like I'm watching him, and like with Luke, it was like Luke knew where the play was going. It felt like 3 out of 4 times. So he was already in the hole, like as the running back got there. Like it was amazing looking back on it. With Wallace, you see him as a rookie trying to dissect plays, and I could watch him on the field like, okay, I think it's going over here. And then he's having to wait a split second or two longer than Luke would to dissect the play, where Luke is
shouldn't be comparing Trevin Wallace to Luke Kuechly.
I know, and I'm not. I'm trying to. I was like, this isn't fair to Wallace. Like Luke is a first ballot Hall of Famer to me. Like that dude was wired different. Like he just watching Wallace play defense and just thinking back, going, man, we really didn't realize how good we had it with Luke Kuechly at middle linebacker, because that dude was covering like 2-3 spots like on defense and calling stuff out to people like before the snap. You always hear like offensive linemen for other teams or other quarterbacks, like, yeah, man, Luke was out there calling our plays like pretty much 3/4 of the day. Like he was literally like calling out what we were going to do. And we're looking at each other like, should we still run this? Like, I guess let's run it anyway. The already knows where it's going, but that is crazy. And that's unique. That's unicorn type stuff. And again, I'm not trying to compare Wallace to Luke, but it made me sit back and go, okay, maybe my expectations have been higher than they need to be. at certain spots because of what I'm used to seeing at certain spots from this team over the past decade. Even at quarterback play or running back or where it may be, you start expecting certain things because it's the Panthers from what we've seen the past 8-9 years, and we're not getting it. And I think that's what the main frustration is for fans. It's like, okay, we know what Panther football is. When are we going to get back to Panther football? And again, it takes some time to get there. J847 asks, Stu, with so many positions of need, what holes in the roster do you think need to be filled first?
Like
any of them? Like I don't know if there's one more.
I would say, man, that's a hard question.
I know, right? Like, well, they're good on offensive line.
Offensive line straight.
Yeah, I'm good with them.
I would say somewhere on the defense. I mean,
yeah,
I think defensive line, like linebacker.
I wouldn't mind like middle linebacker. Yeah, well,
we have Trevin, but just more so just the depth, right? We're learning once guys go down, what happens? We kind of lose a little bit of like, we lose our edge, right? Yeah. And I think losing Derek Brown was like, okay, well, we have Ashawn Robinson, right? And he goes down. And then we have, Jatavian, what's the name? Drawing a blank.
For defense?
Defense. Clowney.
Yeah. He's been gone. He's been out with a shoulder for the past couple of weeks.
And then, the secondary, we've been waiting on guys to come back from that. And I honestly just feel like if our defense was not as banged up as it was, and or we had a bit of veteran presence at depth, we wouldn't be talking how we're talking right now.
Because some of these games, even like the Atlanta game last week, week we played Atlanta, we were only down 5 start of the fourth quarter. And that was with us being injured and just fighting a divisional opponent or whatnot. It's not like we've been getting blown out or anything every game. The thing we all asked for when Andy started starting, just make football fun again, make it competitive, like make us want to watch you on Sunday. And this Sunday was the first Sunday in probably about a month where I was like, no, not this, no. And I couldn't point a blame to Andy or anyone really. It was just like a combination of just a comedy of errors. Like we're just like, okay, this is one of those games where it's just they're gonna roll. Like we can't get out of our own way, and we can't tackle anyone. Like if you can't tackle anyone in football, it's gonna be a long day for you, regardless if it's Pop Warner, high school, college, bro. If you can't tackle, ask Dallas. If you can't tackle, it's just gonna be a long day going forward with it. Matson says we need continuity. No snap changes. Just ride it with Canales for 3 or 4 years. Let the man do his work and let the draft picks develop. I am excited to see what Dan Morgan does with this roster because I do believe in Dan Morgan and what he's saying, what he's doing. The whole dog mentality that he brought up that he mentioned that he got from you, whatever. Shout out to Cam Newton, who mentioned that on Friday on First Take. Same exact thing where they were asking him, with Dallas, what are they missing? Have you seen that clip? And he starts like barking. Yeah, like so. No. So Cam is on First Take now on Friday.
Some dogs, man.
That's literally what he was like. They was like, what is Dallas missing right now? And Cam just starts going like into the mic or whatever. Everyone was like, what? He's like, dogs. They don't have any dogs on that team. There are no dogs on that offense right now that are telling them what they need to be doing. So there's no direction. There's nowhere to go. I saw the clip and I thought of you. I was like, wow, that was a mentality in that Panther room, like on offense. Like you had some, it wasn't just 1 or 2, dude. You had dogs like all over the place, and it's spilled out. It's infectious, and that's the thing they need now. They need to identify those dogs, whether they're on the team now or in college or whatever. Get them in here, let them learn, figure out what you're doing at quarterback. Because if this is truly Dave Canales' team and Dan Morgan's team, if it ain't Bryce Young, fine. But don't just hold on to him for 2-3 years and let the fans kind of wonder what's happening or whatever. Do whatever you're going to do with him. If he's the future, fine. If he's not, fine. But we need to figure that out. And then let some of these dudes that we know are dogs right now eat. Chuba Hubbard. This man, let this dude run. Like
Miles Sanders.
Miles Sanders actually played pretty well. I was actually surprised by that. I'm okay with the wide receiving room right now. And then getting Thielen back. I'm okay with what they have in there right now.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Maybe we need I know Ian Thomas had a bad game, right?
Yeah.
we can't stack another game like he had this past week as far as blocking, because the tight end position, I was blessed to be able to play with, Greg Olsen, and, he always figured out a way to provide running lanes.
Those are the
And,
best teams.
and when you have a guy like him who's obviously like, Cam's number one option as far as a passing threat,
Yeah.
it just opens up the whole playbook, man. I'm telling you, like, you can't just if Greg's in the backfield blocking for a split second, now defense is kind of in a bind. So like, okay, now it's run, and then all of a sudden he spills out for a drag. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Now
good
he's
luck.
wide open
Yeah, good
because
luck.
he's been doing his job blocking. He's been doing his job, basically telling the defense, you're gonna be honest when you have to play against me. So
Every good offense has a good tight end, in my opinion. Like, especially in today's NFL, you gotta have a tight end in order to do stuff. Imagine Pat Mahomes' career without Travis Kelce at this point. Like, you gotta have that safety valve there, and they got to figure that out too. And hopefully it is Sanders, because I have been impressed with what he's done this season so far as a rookie coming in. And shout out to Dante Jackson out in Pittsburgh. That's the one trade I feel like benefited both teams, Pittsburgh and Carolina, because Dante's had a couple interceptions. He's starting in Pittsburgh. Again, Pittsburgh is playing with their quarterbacks right now, and they're 5-2, like literally like
winners,
firmly in the playoff thing. Shout out to Mike Tomlin and everyone who thought that Mike Tomlin needs to be fired or they need to move on. You need to have your head examined, because take it from us down here in Charlotte, you are very lucky to have that stability for what, damn near 45 years or whatever it's been. They've had 3 coaches in 40-something years, and like, it doesn't change. It's the same. It's Steeler football every year. And I hear Steeler fans complaining about, oh, well, we only scored 14 points or blah, blah. So the other team played scored 9. Like, who cares? Like, you got to win. Let's go. You got the dub. They don't care. They want style points. They want it's almost like they're spoiled on winning so much. And we don't know what that feeling is. And I think that's kind of our issue now. We feel like the league's forgetting about us. Kind of pretty much. Like, there's kind of we'll see with them later on. Matson says, "Amen. In 2001, we were terrible. By 2003, we were in the Super Bowl." I've said it on the show. It don't take long in the NFL to flip things around. It's a mentality. It's a couple of players you luck on in the draft. It's a good coach, good front office. It don't take long, man. It really don't take long.
The game is simple, man.
Yep.
You have to tackle well. You have to block well. You have to pass well. And you have to run well. And then you have to catch well. We have been doing, one out of all of those things, like periodically throughout the course of a game for the last several games. And the problem is you have to do those well across the whole board often to win games, especially in the NFL. So it's the basics, man. And I think just if you're listening to these interviews, the press conferences, don't go fishing, right? Don't go fishing for, oh, what did he mean by that?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what he meant as far as, hey, this is what we're trying to achieve. We're going to get back to the basics. Don't be discouraged by that, because the basics is what wins games. I watched the Baltimore Ravens last night. You know what they did? They ran the ball well. They passed the ball well. They blocked well. They tackled well. They covered well. They did all the things really well.
That's a good team. That
is a good team.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry won MVP one year, right? Yeah.
You know what? Actually, I don't think a running back's won it since Adrian Peterson, and that was 2008, and he had to get like 2,000 yards just to get that. I don't know. I got to look that up, but I think he's been in consideration a couple of times. He's had 2,000 yard seasons, hasn't he? Hadn't he had a 2,000 yard season? Yeah.
Yes.
I can't believe that Dallas never even poked the tires.
Dallas. I'm glad. Well, I don't care. I'm glad he didn't go to Dallas. We don't want nobody going over there and getting lost in the sauce.
Lowest yards per carry. I just heard this on the radio when I was coming back earlier this morning. Did you know the Cowboys have only rushed for like 410 yards or something this season? Like, we are in week 7. Yeah, like they're averaging like, what is that? Like 60 yards a game or something on the ground? Like, and I haven't watched a full Dallas game since maybe week 1. it's like, did they just give up? Like they're just going to throw it 80 times? Like, I don't know.
If you were a team that was, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Guess what this is? Guess who this is? This team has an 1,800-yard passer, 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 455 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns rushing as a quarterback. And then their running back has 873 yards rushing and 10 total touchdowns. And this is after week 7.
Was that Baltimore?
That's Baltimore Ravens.
I'm starting.
Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson.
I'm wondering because really, you know what's crazy? The only defense I feel like in the AFC that can kind of contain them is the Chiefs.
Yeah,
which is nuts. You know,
the only reason why the Chiefs are winning is because of their defense.
Because their defense, yeah. Because Pat Mahomes did not play a good game on Sunday, and he knew it. And like the defense kind of bailed them out, and they're still undefeated. They're still undefeated, and they're not even playing well. I did have a special tell you why you're mad because I just saw the time on here. I'm gonna tell you why we mad. We're gonna travel up north to the wonderful city of Cleveland, Ohio. And this is a 2-part thing. This is 2 parts because I know where you think I'm going. There's another part of this too. Because yes, I am mad at the Cleveland fans, but I also feel sorry for the Cleveland fans. And I'm gonna preface this by I have relatives that live in Cleveland. My in-laws live in Cleveland, so I've been to Cleveland. I've gone up there. Cleveland fans are hardworking. They work. They scrap for everything they get. If you've ever been to Cleveland, Ohio, and you drive around, it still feels like an old Midwest kind of Rust Belt town. Like they respect work, like up there.
Blue collar.
I get all that. They announced this week that Jimmy Haslam and Dee Haslam, the owners of the Cleveland Browns, are planning to move the Cleveland Browns out of the stadium they're playing in right now to a new stadium in Brook Park, which is a suburb of Cleveland. My sister actually lives out in that area. They bought like a 137-acre Ford plant that was just vacant or something, and they're going to tear all that down and build a new stadium. It's kind of a retractable roof and all this other stuff, and they're hoping they can attract Super Bowls and stuff to Cleveland. People go, ha ha ha, you're not going to do a Super Bowl in Cleveland. They just did one in Detroit. They've done one in Tampa Bay. Like Charlotte hasn't hosted one because we don't have a retractable roof. You know, that kind of thing. There's plenty of hotels and stuff in the Charlotte area that could host a Super Bowl. They're moving it, and Cleveland fans are mad they're moving it. I didn't realize the Haslams don't own a bit of that stadium. They lease the stadium in Cleveland. Yeah, so
majority of football teams and owners they lease the venue.
They lease the venue. Yeah, so and I think it's the same thing with the Teppers and Bank of America Stadium, where now they're in a 20-year lease or whatever it is. It was part of them buying the team that they wouldn't move the team. Now I could see down the road Tepper building a stadium somewhere near Cleveland or near the state line or Rock Hill. Well, maybe not Rock Hill, but somewhere in the area. I could see them eventually down the road doing something like that could house the Panthers and the soccer team and whatever else in the next like 20 plus years. I feel like Tepper's in this area to stay for a while because it's a good area to build this kind of stuff in. The Cleveland move out of downtown to Brook Park. Brook Park is like 7-8 miles away from where they currently play now. I understand it from both viewpoints. For the owner, I understand him wanting to get out, build his own place, go from there. They're not leaving Cleveland. They're still going to be in Cuyahoga County or whatever the county's called. I do feel bad for the fans, and I feel bad for the businesses around the stadium because we see like in Uptown Charlotte when the Panthers are playing a home game, regardless if they're good or bad, business is up because there's 70,000 people all of a sudden in Uptown Charlotte. And the businesses, the restaurants, the bars, all that stuff that's right there around it, they get a huge bump like on game day. That's going to be gone because they're going to move it to Brook Park. So that part, I feel bad for Cleveland because they've gone through a whole lot in terms of losing their team, getting the team back, all this stuff.
Vibrancy of the city.
All that. Right? So, and Cleveland's kind of like a dying city when it comes to that anyway. So on that end, I'm with you fans that you're upset about that. However,
I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
Sunday, what you guys did Sunday, I cannot tolerate.
Terrible. Should be ashamed.
You know where I'm going here?
You should be ashamed of your freaking selves.
So,
listen, you don't need.
Let's frame it for people that don't know what we're talking about here. Because so Deshaun Watson tears his Achilles. Watched the play. You saw as soon as I saw it, I knew what it was. It was David Chow, the doctor. Actually, I meant to try to see if we can get him on in the next week or two. Bleav's making him available to certain pods. I was going to see if we can get him on to talk about all the injuries that we have. But he tweeted it like 30 minutes after it happened. He's like, that's an Achilles. Like you can just, I can see it from here. That's an Achilles. He's done for the season. And the Cleveland fans started chanting as they're putting Deshaun on the cart. They started chanting, "You deserve it," like to him. This is a nationally televised game, and
Yeah.
that's not a good look, Cleveland fans. Like, now I think I know Eagle fans booed while Michael Irvin was like unconscious on the field, or no, he couldn't feel his legs or something like that. Like he had a spinal injury against Philly, and he was getting booed. The Eagle fans booed Santa Claus. Like they threw batteries at somebody. Like that's Philly. Cleveland, don't do that, man.
We are in a weird phase of life where people are just so desensitized, man. Like, these are people, like real life people. And remember what I said like 3 weeks ago when it looked like Deshaun Watson was quitting at the end of the game and walking off the field?
Yeah.
And I was trying to make sure that people were like, hey, everyone pause for a second. Everyone's going to jump all over this and make this a big deal and make this a case. But you got to realize this man's gone through a lot. Yeah, he's made some mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. He's young. But when you talk about mental health, I'm feeling for this young man.
Me too.
I hope that he heals. I hope that he, recovers in a way mentally, physically, but that this is an opportunity for him to just get himself okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be a uphill battle like none before, but mostly I want his mentals to be okay through all this. So to experience that type of defeat on the field, not a defeat in a game, but defeat of you personally,
like life.
Physically. Life altering event where your career is up in question and could be possibly in shambles. And then hearing in the background as you're laying there injured and you hear the boos and you hear the chants of you deserve it. No one deserves it to be hurt like that. No one deserves to be shamed like that. It might as well be like the archaic ages back in the biblical days, or maybe where they're stoning people. You might as well had stones in your hand and throwing them at Deshaun Watson.
It just wasn't necessary. And it's like, what did you think it was going to accomplish? Being that, I totally agree with you. The way today's climate is, I think phones and like keyboards and stuff have a lot to do with it, because a lot of times people get online and talk slick to people. Like if this was 20, 30 years ago when we couldn't do that and you had to talk to people face to face, a lot of people would be saying the same thing. Yeah,
get your head knocked right on in.
They feel protected and they feel big, and like they'll go off and say whatever, and things get manipulated and lies get shared so easily nowadays. Where like,
but it's just crazy. It's
true.
Like think about this. Think about being in a stadium where you are a person, a fan, and probably a Deshaun Watson fan at that. And then all of a sudden you hear the person next to you yelling this chant, "You deserve it."
While your man's getting put on a cart.
While he's getting put on a cart. And here you are saying, "Oh, let me join in on this.
Yeah.
This seems fun."
How's this going to help? How's this help anything?
That's how miserable this world is.
That's what I took from that. Was my Tell 'em Why You're Mad, because I was like, I don't want to put it on the Panthers. And I saw that, and that just made me like, because I've been very critical of Deshaun Watson's play the past year. And I've said it on the show, like, man, they're in a tough pickle. Like, and you mentioned a couple weeks ago that Cleveland had a worse situation franchise-wise than we did. And I agreed. Like, you're right. Like they're in a bad, but it was off his play. Like, it was Cleveland decided to give him that guaranteed contract, like, and broke the barriers of really no one's gotten near that contract even after he signed it. Like, it was a $237 million total guaranteed. And that's all I heard after his injury. It wasn't about everything you just said about feeling about him mentally. Some people, former player, I think Howie Long said something to that effect. I think Michael Strahan said something to that effect. The guys that have played it like more recently, but for the most part, like the analysts and stuff, they're talking more about the cap hit and like how much does this affect Cleveland like this year and next year, and if they cut him, how much money they're going to owe and all this other stuff. And it's a lot of money, but they knew that when they signed him. So it's like you can't really feel too bad for Cleveland because they did this. Nobody pushed them to sign him to this crazy deal. The crazy thing about it, the other team that was in the room trying to get him, Carolina. Remember that?
Yeah.
It was us, Matt Rule, David Tepper. They were flying around trying to get him to come up here. It was us, Atlanta, the Saints, and Cleveland. And I think the reason why he didn't come here is because at the last minute, Cleveland said they'd fully guarantee his contract. And he was like, I'll go to Cleveland. And that's literally how he ended up in Cleveland with all that money. So we could be sitting here with Deshaun Watson and a whole other type of conversation, a whole different type of podcast going on But yeah, don't do that, Cleveland. Like,
Yeah,
I
come on,
respect the people
Cleveland,
of Cleveland so
relax.
much that, yeah, don't
Like
take it
Jesus
that way.
himself said, "Judge not, and you will not be judged. Condemn not, and you will not be condemned." Like, come on now, let's get
Yeah.
with the program.
But y'all are better at that, because then that made me feel like, well, you know what? Y'all deserve to have the team move 7 miles out the thing to Brook Park or whatever. Y'all gonna have to drive down there, you know. And I feel bad because I have a lot of family in-laws that live in Cleveland, but I was just like, you know what? You got to draw a line here somewhere. Like, Cleveland, you can't be what the perception of Cleveland is. You know, you can't be those people. Don't do
And
that.
you setting bad example for the next generation, man. Like,
Yeah, your
that's
kids are
crazy.
with you probably at the game, and they're seeing you do this. Like, and that's another
You know
thing
what it
too.
reminded me of? It reminded me of that Jackie Robinson movie.
Ooh, which one?
Yeah,
The one that had Chadwick Boseman in it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when in the
Which one?
beginning, where the young boy was at the game with his dad,
Yeah.
and his dad yelled off, the racial slur, and then his son looked at him, and he was like, "Oh, I guess that's what I'm supposed to do," and then he yelled it off too.
Yeah.
And it's not anywhere near close to that, but when you talk about setting the example, you deserve it. Oh yeah, Dad, he does deserve it because he's playing bad football.
Yeah,
like,
he deserves
what?
to have his career threatened. Like, I mean, just that thing. I saw that and I was like, all right, I got to bring that up on the thing here. I did talk to Schuyler. Schuyler was we were trying to figure out when we were doing this backstory. I had traffic court this morning, and I've had to
What
continue.
you do, man? How fast you was going?
Well, you know the crazy part about this happened back in June. I didn't realize. I think I told y'all my tag was expired, and I didn't realize it. In North Carolina, they changed it where you don't have the thing on the window anymore. Like, it's all attached to your tag, so I always forget. And I was on my way to North Carolina A&T for a business meeting to meet with their AD. It was right at the beginning of the summer, and to get there, I have to drive through UNCG, University of North Carolina Greensboro's campus, my alma mater. So I was like, hey, it's summertime. I ain't been doing it in a minute. I'm gonna drive through. So I'm trying to drive through campus. I get pulled over by campus security.
Gotcha, but
yeah, they give me a ticket for the tag being expired and the inspection being due and all that stuff. Another one comes by and they're just like hanging out, and I'm like, come on, man. Like, I'm alumni. Like, I was just driving through. Like, I wasn't even trying to, there ain't anybody here. It's like they didn't have nothing else to do.
that's their problem. They was bored.
Man, and then I went through all this trouble with my car where I couldn't get it past inspection because I didn't realize when I bought it, it was originally in California. And I had a problem with my catalytic converter, and they have different emissions tests. So we had took that off and put another one on, not knowing it was from California. The light's still on. I can't pass inspection. Money, everything else out the window later. I have to get the ticket continued twice so I can not pay this ticket by passing inspection, right? So I finally got all this stuff done last week. Finally, I ordered a catalytic converter that's from California. I have a mechanic that puts it on, everything else. I get past inspection, everything's fine. I go down today thinking I'm going to be there. Sorry, my dog's going crazy. I go down today thinking I'm going to be there for hours like I was the first 2 times, and I literally was in and out in 10 minutes. Just went to the clerk, took care of everything, and left. So me and Schuyler and you were talking about doing the show tomorrow, and we were all trying to figure out you couldn't do Wednesdays. And Schuyler was like, I'm free Wednesday. And then when I got out, it was literally like 8:45 or whatever. I'm like, I can still do our regular time today. So he thought we were going tomorrow. So he had to do like a training.
Sorry, Schuyler.
Sorry, man.
Sorry that you got hemmed up over there at your alma mater. But
yeah, dude, that's the bad part about it. I didn't even know what to do. Like, I was like,
ladies and gentlemen, just take care of the tags.
Yeah,
so that way you ain't out here riding dirty.
So real quick before we get out of here, though, Panthers.
But
Broncos,
I'm riding dirty too. I ain't got my tags done yet, so I need to go ahead.
It just creeps up on me. Usually, it's the police that remind me. They're the ones that pull me over. Hey, man, did you know your tags are? I'm like, no, I did not. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know, officer. Panthers versus Broncos predictions before we get out of here. They're talking about the Broncos and maybe blowing. They're 8-point favorites in this game. They're in the playoff mix, actually, in the AFC. They're 4-3. Bo Nix is another rookie quarterback that we'll see playing in this game. They're not necessarily dominant on offense, but they have a pretty good run game. What do you think in this game, Stu? Because I'm kind of past the point of predicting that the Panthers will actually win the football game. Like, I'm more like, what do you want to see? What do they need to do in order to win the football game, and can they?
I'd like to see perimeter players just finishing plays. Whether it's routes, whether it's catching and finishing, getting some yards after contact. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yards after catch. I would like to see a little bit uplift in that on the offensive side. And then obviously continue to just be aggressive in the run game. I don't care how it seems. If you go 3 and out, I want to see at least 2 3 and outs where it's just all runs, because I guarantee you we won't see a 3 and out 2 times in a row.
I agree.
If I think
totally agree.
Chuba Hubbard is very capable of moving piles. And I think on defense, we just provide ourselves an opportunity to just have them out there not as much by running the ball, right? So on defense, I feel like we had a good start last week against Washington on defense. Bend don't break. I'm okay with that. And when I say bend don't break, you might give up some explosion plays here and there, but as you get into the red zone, things get tighter. So that's a little bit to your advantage to keep guys out of the end zone. So hold Denver to field goals. Don't let them score at will, and just hold them to field goals and give yourselves an opportunity to make something shake on the offensive side of the ball and get some turnovers. This is a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
Give him some different looks. Again, we said last week, show something from the secondary to where it kind of, rattles a young guy like Bo Nix. And obviously Bo Nix coming from my alma mater, University of Oregon. Quack, quack, go Ducks. We balling right now, number 1 in the country. So
that's right.
Shout out, stay alert, don't fall asleep. I would love to see us get after him, because if you don't, he's going to get comfortable. And if he gets comfortable, he's going to get dangerous. And if you get dangerous, it's going to be, Commanders game 2.0.
Real quick, I agree with everything you said. I want to see more of the run game. I want to see more Chuba. Just feed him. Panthers injury report as it stands right now: Raheem Blackshear's questionable, Josie Jewell, Jadeveon Clowney, Taylor Moton, Claude Shirless, Tommy Trimble, John Radigan, Ashawn Robinson. They're all listed as questionable. That'll probably be updated throughout the week. The bright spot for the Panthers: Chuba's averaging 5.2 yards per carry the past 7 games. He scored 4 touchdowns. The only bad thing here for Carolina is that the Broncos defense is one of the best defenses in the league, if I'm not mistaken. They're ranked number 1 in the league in yards per play allowed, number 5 in points allowed, number 10 in turnovers forced. So they lean heavily on that defense. They have a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix, like you said. For betting purposes, the Panthers are just 1-12 straight up on the road since the start of the 2023 season. The Broncos are 5-2 against the spread this season. The Panthers are 1-6 against the spread this season. Carolina is 1-3 against the spread on the road in 2024, and the Broncos are 1-2 against the spread at home in 2024. So take with that as you wish. Again, the Broncos are 8-point favorites in this contest. They're hosting this game. It's Sunday, 4:25 p.m. It's another 4:00 start. This is on CBS again. We've been on CBS a couple of times now this year, so definitely check out Panthers Broncos. We will be back next week with a brand new episode dissecting that game and anything else that might pop up in Panther world between now and then. I should have a Panthers extra. I've been doing these Bleav in Panthers extras later on in the week on my show. I'll have a beat writer, somebody come on and interview him for 15-20 minutes. It's kind of more of a closer to the game type of perspective for what the Panthers are doing. You can catch all that on the Bleav podcast networks as well. I do need to mention again before we get out of here, another one of our sponsors in Cherry Bundy. It's a tart cherry drink. It's a natural and anti-inflammatory. It's got great benefits: reduce soreness, increase recovery, helps support immunity, contains naturally occurring melatonin to help improve sleep. It's used by nearly 500 collegiate and professional sports teams. Every NFL team uses it. 10 of the last 11 Super Bowl champions drink it. Every team playing in Europe or Brazil this season had Cherry Bundy with them. 66 of 67 Power 4 conference football teams and every NCAA football and basketball national champion since 2007. It's Cherry Bundy. They're available on Amazon and it retails nationwide like Publix and Kroger. It's Cherry Bundy. It's CHERIBUNDI.com. I looked it up on Amazon in like 2 seconds. It's pretty easy to find. Stu says he drinks it religiously. And
drank mine this morning. I drank the pouch.
You drank the pouch. So do you just drink the pouch straight or you mix it with something?
I drink straight.
Drink straight. Okay, so I'm gonna check this out too because I've got a whole box that they.
You still ain't tasted it yet?
Man, I still hadn't. I had a head cold last week, so I couldn't taste anything.
That would help you.
Wait. Really? You think? Oh, actually, you know what? It does says help immunity, and I'm still kind of getting over it. You know what? I'm gonna open up one right now. I'm gonna go in there and open up one. So I'm gonna try one. I will have a report when I come back next week on how Cherry Bunny made me feel on the inside. Like I'll see how it makes me feel. We're gonna go ahead and get out of here. For Stu, this is Des. For Schuyler Callihan, this is Bleav in Panthers here on the Bleav Podcast Network. It's brought to you by Bet Online. And here's a quick word from our friends over at Melon Hats. Bleav. Oh, you know what? We never talked about your hats, Stu.
Oh yeah,
yeah. We completely
this melon hat. Love this hat.
We're an hour and 7 minutes in, but
you know it's waterproof.
You
know,
comfortable fit.
Yeah, if you're out there on a boat or at a pool or washing dishes and you accidentally drop your hat into the water,
that baby ain't gonna sink.
No,
it ain't gonna sink because you know it floats and it's water repellent. But mostly when you are outside coaching a football game, you know, for your youth football team or high school, middle school football, whatever you're doing right now, you can wear this hat and you can sweat and it won't ruin your hat. You know how you get them hats?
Get those salt lines.
Yeah.
You don't get none of that with this hat right here, man. This is high performance, man.
So
shout out to Melon.
Yeah, you can go to Melon, a new sponsor for Bleav. Go to melon.com. It's spelled MELIN.com. MELIN.com. Put it to the test yourself. It's the world's most durable hat. And I promise we'll read it much, much earlier next week. My hat's not here. Like I got a notification on my phone that it's going to be here on the 25th, and that's tomorrow.
Yeah, man. So. Look, Desmond, and they make hats in all shapes and sizes because Desmond's got a large melon on him.